The critic reviews are wrong is something that no one should ever say, since reviews are 100% subjective, and if you can't understand that, you are objectively a tool. With that said, I think the general metascore here is quite a bit under what many people would think, because Visions of Mana is an outstanding game, and I wouldn't be surprised if some people had it as their RPG of the year. Visions of Mana is the 5th main title in the Mana series and the first since Dawn of Mana, which was released all the way back in 2006. If you're a fan of the series, you'll feel right at home here, as Visions of Mana looks and feels exactly like a modern Mana game should. If you're new to the series, however, what you can expect is an incredibly fun, mostly light-hearted action RPG experience with a lot of charm. Before we get into the review, if you like this video, it would help me out a lot to hit that like button and sub for more JRPG content coming soon. I'd also like to thank the publishers for the review code, and all footage that you see is from the PS5 version of the game. What are your thoughts on Visions of Mana? Have you played it yet, or is it something you're interested in? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, let's get into it. The very first thing that stood out for me was the breathtaking visuals. Visions of Mana is one of the best looking games that I've played, and exploring these bright, vibrant, colourful environments was a treat. This game really feels like a Mana game should, in not only the visual style, but also in the game's themes and characters and enemies that you meet along the way. I mean, Mr. Awkward Dancy Shopkeeper even makes a return after all these years. But while the visuals are without fault, the facial animations leave a lot to be desired. They're not just bad, they are non-existent, save for some poor lip syncing. This is a real shame, as some of the more emotional moments just don't hit as hard as they should. I did really like the soundtrack though. These tracks aren't particularly catchy, but they work perfectly in creating atmosphere when exploring the many different locations in the world. Visions of Mana follows the journey of a young soul guard named Val. He sets out on a pilgrimage to escort a group of elms to the Mana Tree. It is the duty of these chosen elms to sacrifice their lives to the Mana Tree in order to renew the flow of mana in the world. So basically, a bunch of people have to die so the world can live. The premise here is solid, and there were some decent moments throughout this 30-hour journey. However, most of the time, I was not engaged. The story progression is slow, with few surprises for the majority of the game. Now, there is a good amount of cutscenes with some decent voice acting, but the dialogue and the story scenes rarely interested me.
Go! Waste the rest of your short lives traveling to the Mana Tree for all I care.
No! He got away.
Leave him. I will dispatch the royal guards to deal with it.
He got away. Seriously, he literally just waddled away. The majority of the story unfolds with the characters standing around and talking, with a lot of explaining and not much seeing or doing. During this time, all I wanted to do was get back into the action. I couldn't help but compare the quality of this storytelling with Final Fantasy X. These two games feature a similar theme in sacrificing for the greater good, but one of the games does it better than the other. Visions of Mana's bland cast of characters also did nothing for me, and this was part of the problem. I'm sure that some people may like this cute, colourful cast, but let's just say I won't be inviting any of them to my next birthday party. To put it simply, the storytelling and cast of characters are far from the worst I've ever seen, but this was still quite easily the weakest aspect of an otherwise outstanding game. Exploring the world of Visions of Mana is an absolute treat. As you can see, the environments are absolutely stunning, but better yet, there's also a lot to find, including treasure chests, unique enemies, and various currencies. There's also a generous amount of party banter that takes place when exploring new locations, which is always a good thing. This is one of those games where you're going to need to backtrack to previous maps, since unlocking new elemental powers will also allow you to access new things that you previously couldn't. But this comes with some minor frustrations due to the limited fast travel system that only allows you to warp to certain locations on your current continent. To get to previous continents, you'll need to manually travel there using different transport options, and this was unnecessarily time consuming. This is particularly frustrating when trying to complete NPC NPC side quests, which also require a lot of running around. And while on this topic, the quality of these side quests are really poor. The NPC stories that they tell are generic, with objectives that range from fetch this to kill that. In terms of map traversal, running, jumping, and dashing feels pretty good, but for some reason, you don't have the ability to double jump or dodge in town, and this was a very poor design choice. I see absolutely no reason why these restrictions were put in place. Visions of Mana's action-based combat is a lot of fun. You control one character at a time with the ability to switch to your other two party members on the fly. Each character has their own basic attack and special attack, which can be strung together to perform basic combos. Characters can also cast spells that consume MP and perform super powerful class strikes when the shared gauge fills up. The most unique aspect to this combat is the ability to use a character's equipped elemental vessel in battle, which works on a cooldown. Each of the 8 vessels not only dictate which skills a character can use, but they also have their own unique ability. For instance, using the wind vessel allows a character to throw boomerangs at nearby enemies, while using the water vessel allows a character to spray a short-range stream of water to deal damage and put enemies into a bubble. These vessel abilities can also be charged up once the gauge fills to unleash a devastating attack that fills the entire battlefield. I enjoyed every second of hammering my foes and taking on the many bosses, but I will admit that the options in combat do start off very slow. Early game strategy is mostly just hack and slash, but once you obtain more elements, the combat truly opens up. In terms of difficulty, I played the game on hard, which is the highest of the 4 options, and I would recommend this to anyone with a little bit of JRPG experience who is willing to do most of the side content. Hard was perfect to making me think about my actions in battle without having to grind for levels. But to be honest, the entire challenge of battle can be largely negated with the ability to spam items with little cost. Once you dash out of harm's way, which is easy to do, you can revive and fully heal all party members in about a second by using easily obtainable items. Personally, I would have liked some more constraints with item use, such as it having a cooldown. If there's one other issue that I had with the combat, it would be that it's too easy to accidentally escape from battle. If you're fighting an enemy on the edge of the battlefield, chances are that you'll hug the boundary for a few seconds too long and accidentally escape. This can be very annoying when you're trying to take on the more powerful, unique enemies on the maps. The major way to upgrade your characters is through equipping different elemental vessels, and this can provide a load of options. Once you unlock a vessel through story progression, you'll be able to equip it to a character to change their class. If my calculator is anything to go by, 8 vessels and 5 different party members means that there's a total of 40 classes, in addition to the 5 base classes. Now, each of these classes has their own elemental plot, where you can unlock abilities using accumulated elemental points. These will either be passive class abilities that only apply when you have that class equipped, or moves which are learnt forever and can be used regardless of your class. There is a lot to think about when customizing your characters, including the class's base stats, which weapon type is required for that class, the class's abilities, its elemental vessel, and the unique class action. Then there's ability seeds that can be equipped to provide additional moves and passive skills. Long story short, there are many different playstyles on offer, and experimenting with these was one of the most enjoyable parts of the game. Visions of Mana is my favourite game in the series. The game is absolutely beautiful and features some of the most vibrant, stunning environments that I've ever seen. Exploring these maps and finding everything I could was some of the best times that I had with the game. But while the game looks great, the lack of facial animations and poor lip syncing reminded me of something I'd see in a PS2 game. Visions of Mana's combat is a lot of fun. It doesn't really do anything unique, but the many options provided by the class system means that you'll never be short of something new to try. While playing Visions of Mana is a lot of fun, watching the story unfold left a lot to be desired. This narrative never hooked me, and this was largely due to the main cast of characters who I never cared about. If you're after a game with amazing storytelling, Visions of Mana is not your guy. But if you're after a stunning JRPG with solid exploration, fun combat, and a great class system, then Visions of Mana should not be missed. What did you think of the game? Do you agree with what I said? Let me know in the comments below. This was Hellfire RPGs. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button and sub for more JRPG content coming soon. See you next time.